Turning now to politics tonight, in campaign 2016, Donald Trump has premiered his first TV ad of his presidential campaign, and it comes down hard on immigrants.
Trump also blasted President Obama for playing golf while Louisiana deals with massive flooding.
KCAL 9 political reporter Dave Bryan joins us now with the latest from the campaign trail today. Dave?
The Trump supporters are certainly glad to see the TV ads, but some of them are saying, what took you so long? After being pounded for weeks by a barrage of Hillary Clinton TV ads in the states that will matter in November, the Donald Trump campaign is starting to run its own TV ad now in 4 of those battleground states, and the theme may have a familiar ring to some Californians.
In Hillary Clinton's America, the system stays rigged against Americans.
The Donald Trump campaign's first TV ad of the general election presidential race blasts away at Hillary Clinton and targets Syrian refugees and illegal immigrants as the villains, stoking public fears and anger at undocumented immigrants.
Syrian refugees flood in. Our border open. It's more of the same, but worse.
The Trump ad is reminiscent of a controversial Pete Wilson 1994 re-election campaign TV ad in the California governor's race.
They keep coming. 2 million illegal immigrants in California. The federal government won't stop them at the border.
Governor Wilson won his 1994 race. The Trump ad is running in 4 battleground states this weekend.
Dad, you're not playing golf in Martha's Vineyard.
Somebody is. Somebody is. It shouldn't be.
Taking a jab at President Obama, who's vacationing at Martha's Vineyard with his family, Donald Trump and his running mate Mike Pence visited some of Baton Rouge, Louisiana's hardest-hit flood areas.
Nobody understands how bad it is. It's really incredible. So I'm just here to help.
And while some people have criticized President Obama for not cutting his New England vacation short to tour the flood-ravaged area, Louisiana's Democratic governor said the focus now should be on recovery efforts. And his office said Trump's visit is welcome, but not for just a photo op. Later, at a rally in a nearly all-white suburb of Lansing, Michigan, Trump continued to urge African-American voters to give him a chance after years of being taken for granted by the Democrats, he said.
What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
And then there's Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, who resigned Friday after having run the campaign since the end of March and indicated the campaign was doing just fine 16 days ago.
The campaign is focused, and the campaign is moving forward in a positive way.
But after a month of Trump stumbles and bumbles and plunging poll numbers, Manafort took the fall just 2 days after his replacements were hired to revive the campaign, pollster Kellyanne Conway and conservative powerhouse Steve Bannon. And Manafort was left to deal with news reports that he could have made millions of dollars by covertly promoting a Russia-friendly party in Ukraine. Trump's son Eric said it was taking attention away from his father's campaign.
I think my father didn't want to be, distracted by, whatever things that, Paul was dealing with.
Now back to the trip in Louisiana. Hours after Trump touched down at Baton Rouge, the White House announced President Obama will tour the flood damage area on Tuesday. As for Hillary Clinton, she urged people to donate to the Red Cross and said the relief efforts can't afford any distractions.
So, Dave, why is Trump putting so much energy into attracting African-American voters when polls show that he doesn't have much support from them?
Yeah, and in a way, that may be the reason he's trying to attract them. I'm not privy to the Trump campaign strategy discussions, but I can tell you this. Trump's numbers with African-American voters ranged between 2% in one recent poll to 14.6% in a recent LA Times poll. So one way to look at it is there's nowhere to go but up, and the campaign appears to believe it does have a compelling argument to reach black voters. It's very clear that Trump has to broaden his base of support beyond white blue-collar workers to win this election. So take your choice. Latino voters, college-educated women voters, Muslim voters, young Bernie Sanders voters. Where does he go? There aren't a lot of choices to do that, Jeff.
Well, Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton has not toured the storm-ravaged region, but instead called Governor Edwards for an update. She posted their briefing on Facebook, saying that the relief effort cannot afford any distractions right now and urged people to donate.